All right, hello and welcome to all of our alumni and friends of the University of Michigan. My name is Kiara Trotter, and I serve as the Director of Alumni Career and Education of your Alumni Association. I go by the pronouns she, her, and hers. We are super excited and very grateful to have Mariana Akashe with us as we delve into this month's webinar topic, How to Upskill Developing Yourself While Maximizing Your Time. You're here to advance your professional development. So before we get started, I'm excited to introduce to you another opportunity. Your Alumni Association is partnering with Michigan Online to present Purpose at Work, a 3-week course led by esteemed behavioral scientist and School of Public Health faculty member, Vic Stretcher. I apologize if I said his name incorrectly. This course aims to help you find purpose in your work, leading to a more engaging and fulfilling life. For more information, please check out the chat. Brooke is going to put a link to that course in the chat, and we hope to see you there. Okay, back to today's webinar. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be shared with all registrants tomorrow in a follow-up email. Please submit questions through the Q&A feature in your toolbar. Ooh, I scrolled a little too fast, I'm sorry. The chat feature is also active, so please feel free to participate in the discussion with other participants throughout the session in the chat. We will do our very best to get all of your questions answered, but given the significant number of people we're expecting today, we may not be able to get to all of them. I will now share a little bit about today's speaker, Mariana Akashe. Mariana Akashe, and she uses she, her pronouns, finds joy in supporting others' growth and development, whether it's professional, academic, or personal. She has committed to this interest through her professional training, including career leadership, academic, and life coaching. Mariana is a board-certified career coach, certified advanced academic coach, and certified executive coach. So in other words, she is certified. She has professionally coached clients over the last 11 years, including early career, mid-level, and executive professionals. In addition, she has 10 years of experience in higher education and began her professional journey in the hospitality and retail industries. Mariana is currently the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Organizational Culture at the University of Michigan and is the owner of Success Reimagined LLC, a coaching and consulting organization dedicated to helping individuals and organizations reach the success they are after. And on a more personal note, I do not trust anybody with my children, but I trust my children to Mariana, and hopefully she'll be able to babysit very soon. And so I certainly trust her as a partner in my career. I'm super excited that you get to benefit from her expertise today. So I'll turn it over to you, Mariana.
Thank you so much, Kiara. I appreciate that very warm welcome. And I'm really excited to be here with all of you today. This is a topic that I care deeply about personally, but also encouraging others to pursue. So I'm very excited to discuss this. So we're going to be talking about how to upskill, developing yourself while maximizing your time. Okay. All right, so getting to know you all a little bit better, I had a warm welcome, but I wanted to share that my name is Mariana Akashe. I own a consulting and coaching company, and it's called Success Reimagined. As Kiara said, I love anything having to do with coaching, so I have pursued a lot of certifications in that area. I'm actually a board certified career coach, so I love discussing anything about topics regarding job strategies, networking, resume, cover letter, kind of just advancing yourself in your careers. I am also a certified academic coach, so talking about topics such as time management, test taking skills, organization, how to better yourself as a student. And then I'm also a certified executive coach. So I think about leadership topics at a high level. How can I help you be a better leader? How can I help you find success in leading others in your career? So I love empowering others to reach their version of success. I actually work for the University of Michigan, so go blue. As Kiara said, I oversee diversity, equity, inclusion, and organizational culture. So I'm also thinking about how organizations can best serve themselves and work well together. And I'm also a student at U of M. I'm slowly working on my master's degree in social work. I find social work to be a benefit for a lot of different careers. So reach out to me if you have any questions about that. All right, so we have some really important topics to get through today. These are our agenda items, our roadmap for today. Together, we will talk about highlighting the benefits of upskilling. Why is it important? What will it do for you? Where will it get you? We're going to identify the stage of upskilling that you might be in. There are various levels. We'll identify where you might be primarily at. We're going to review the steps that you need to take in order to get on your own skill development journey. And we're going to discover possible resources to support you. We'll also, by the end of this presentation, gain clarity on the ways to advocate for your skill development. It's important to advocate for yourself, so we'll highlight that. Kiera went over some housekeeping items, but I want to go over a couple more because they're important to the presentation. The first is engagement level. Whenever I'm in a presentation or in a classroom and the presenter says, stop, everyone, we're going to actually get in a group or we're going to go into a Zoom room, I'd rather have mental heads up about that. So I'm going to give you that now. This is going to be a more traditional webinar style where you'll be hearing me speak a lot, but please utilize the Q&A function as well as the chat. You are all alum of U of M, and so it's exciting to get to know each other, learn where everyone's at. So utilize that chat function. And also know that there is going to be one poll question. It's going to be more in the beginning of the presentation. And then towards the end of the presentation, I will ask you to determine your next step. So keep that in mind that will be coming your way. And again, the Q&A function will be open, but I won't answer questions until the last 15 minutes. So if you're wondering why isn't she answering the question that I have now, just know that there'll be time designated for that at the end. Recording and follow-up. This will be recorded. They will send you this recording tomorrow, as well as some links that we talked about today and sent in the chat. And I've actually created a worksheet that allows you to interact with this content on your own. And we will send that in the chat towards the end of the presentation, but also in the follow-up tomorrow. Because it is being recorded, I will avoid saying names in the chat for this purpose, just so I'm not outing someone's name and their question that will live in infamy with the recording. So keep that in mind. And finally, there is a feedback survey that they will be sending in the chat towards the end of the presentation as well. We would love to hear your thoughts. I love positive, kudos, but I also really appreciate constructive feedback. All right, let's get into this presentation. So we're going to talk about the what and why. What is upskilling and why is it important? So what is upskilling? Upskilling is all about taking the skills that you currently have, because we all have skills. You all have accomplished one of the hardest things in life, which is to obtain an education from one of the best institutions, or you could argue the best, the University of Michigan. So you have a lot of expertise already at your hand and your fingertips. But we're going to talk about how to upskill, take it to the next level, build upon the skills that you currently have, and enhance your development in those skill areas. So we're going to take your current skills and capabilities and give them a next level push. This could include things like degrees, certifications, certificates, any kind of professional development or training opportunities. We're going to talk about funding. This could mean that they're employer-funded costs that are covered for that training and professional development, or it could be self-funded. There are other options, but we'll discuss that. I put money, a picture of money on the table here because that is also important to consider why upskilling is important. So we know that it can expand your income. We know by research that it's important to take the opportunity to develop yourself because it can lead to a greater income later on. We know that the more opportunity that you take to develop yourself professionally, it creates more benefit in the long term. Careers that existed 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, don't exist now. And so we need to keep up with the times. We need to keep up with what is moving in the global landscape of life. Even thinking about AI, the way it's evolved, we've known that it might be coming possibly, but the way it's expanded now is we need to be knowledgeable in how that affects our careers and our roles. So keeping up with our skill set is important, not just for the income piece, that's great, but also keeping up with our roles and thinking about the retention that we have in our careers, and also closing the talent gaps in our roles. All right, let's talk about upskilling levels. Talked about why it's important, why we want to pursue it. So, what are the different levels of upskilling and where are you currently? All right, let's discuss these upskilling audiences. One of the first ones to consider is upskilling in place. This means that you might be in a current position where you're happy, you're good. No one's told you that you need to train in a new skill or a new certificate or get a new degree in order to stay in your role. You are happy with your job, but you want to make sure that you're keeping up. There's a certain skill you want to learn or just be on top of. So this is the first level of upskilling in place. You're getting new skills to keep up, but also you just have an interest in learning more. The next one is seeking promotion. This means that you're building skills to advance yourself. You want to get to that next level in that role in your career and your organization. So it's important to gain any sort of credential that will make sure to certify you in that skill set. But it's important for you because you need that promotion for a certain reason in your life. So you're really building those skills to advance. The next skill is facing replacement. This could be in an unfortunate stage that you might be in, but I like to think about it optimistically. Is maybe you've had a tough conversation with your employer, and they've said, you need to actually build this certain skill or develop in this area in order to keep up in this role. We have certain people that are coming on that are new and they have this skill set. We need you to have it, and so maybe you need some sort of retraining. You need new information in order to be kept up in this current role. The next level is returning to the workforce. I know we had some attendees that had submitted questions ahead of time, sharing that maybe they had been out of work for some time, they're returning to that workforce for different reasons. Could have taken FMLA time, maybe just had a child, taking care of parents. And so they're in a space where they're returning to the workforce and they need to ensure they have updated skills. So they're really looking for a refresh here. Since you've been gone, what is it that you need to stay in this role or pivot to a new role or a promotion area? And so, really understanding what is the skill that you need that you are missing in the time that you were gone. And then there's the exciting level of preparing for a switch. This could be scary, but again, also an opportunity. Maybe you have always wanted to pursue a specific job and you need some new education and credentials to back that up. You've always wanted to pursue a passion of yours, or you're getting drained by your current role and you really want to make a switch as soon as possible. So this could be the stage of really gaining new skills for that new career. It's essential for you to develop a new skill set in order to make that switch. So here's our kind of general audiences and levels. Please note there can be overlap. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I would love to know from you all where you think you are. So keep note of these audiences, and you'll see a poll showing up on the screen. Where do you think you are? Are you upskilling in place, seeking promotion, facing replacement, returning to the workforce, or preparing for a switch? You could be in multiple areas and levels, but know that we're just looking for your most significant level that you're at right now. So take a moment to submit that on the screen, and we'll give a chance for everyone to submit their thoughts. And then we'll show the results on the screen. I'll go back to this last tab just so you can see the different levels. There you go. Okay, we have our results. Thank you for sharing those. So it looks like there is a 37-35%, so quite close percentage-wise for where people are. Upskilling in place, so you're good. You just want to learn some new skills, keep up with the skill sets that you need in your role. Or a large part of our audience is also kind of in the bucket of preparing for a switch. I want to make a career change, either pursuing my passion and or I'm just drained by my current role. It's not what I thought it was. I also see a large portion of you are in the seeking promotion. level. So that's exciting. No one's in facing replacement. Glad to hear that. And then we have some attendees that are in the return to workforce. So I'm keeping this in mind, upskilling in place, preparing for a switch, seeking promotion, and then returning to workforce as some of our audience levels. Thank you so much for participating in that. Okay, so overlap is common. So if you were kind of picking your poll option and you felt like, oh, I'm in multiple areas, again, no, this is common. You could just be wanting to develop yourself, but also wanting to get a promotion. You could be retraining in your current role and fulfilling a talent gap that your organization has. Your organization may recognize, oh, we need people who have this skill set. We currently don't have that. And so they're seeking that out from you. You could also be in a position where you're okay in your role currently in the industry and role that you're in the organization, but ultimately you would love to end your time working in something that's more of a passion of yours. I know some alumni have submitted that as an interest area of theirs. So no, you can have some overlap, and that's perfectly fine. All right, let's talk about the steps and the sources for upskilling. What are the steps I need to take? What are the resources available to me? I'm excited to talk about these things. So this is kind of our formula that we're going to go off of. The first is really having a good understanding of what skill you actually need to develop. What is it that I need to get professional development training on? I don't want to waste my time. This webinar is all about maximizing your time. So it's important to put a lot of work up front into understanding what skill it is that you actually need. Then we have the cost part of our formula. It's sometimes expensive to get certain training. Sometimes we have great opportunities where it's either free, low cost, could be covered by your employer, could have scholarship opportunity. But sometimes it has a hefty cost associated, and we need to know how that will be covered. And then we have the time element here. Our time is precious, and we need to understand how we can maximize our resources. So let's get into this a little bit more. I'm going to break these into much more detail. When I talk about skills, it's important to know that there are all sorts of skills in this world that we could be developing. Oftentimes, you'll see them categorized kind of in two ways: hard skills, or sometimes known as technical skills, and then our soft skills. Those are items that aren't as easy to measure, but are essential to our development and well-being in our roles. So some examples of some soft skills include strategic decision making, problem solving, critical thinking, communication, interpersonal skills. I think about how important it is to know about kind of conflict resolution, especially if you're in a leadership role, and just working well with others. We all have different personalities, we have different working styles, and that is a soft skill that's important for us to obtain to continue to be successful in our roles and also to advance. As far as costs go, if you're currently employed, I will always advocate and encourage you to take advantage of the professional development opportunities that your employer may have. If it's a larger organization, more likely to have a lot of opportunities. If it's smaller, it might be a little trickier, maybe on a per diem, one-off basis, but we'll talk about that more. And then personally, determining the funds you have if you need to pursue that. Again, we'll get into these in much more detail. Time, some important things to think about is, can you take time off on your job, especially if your employer covers the cost in some way? Can you package that kind of negotiation conversation with asking if you can have a few hours off during the week, or options to kind of flex your time? Also, it's important, if we're maximizing our time, we're taking this skill development journey seriously. So we are scheduling our development and our training just like we would school, or just like we would with kids' schedules and sports games. We will schedule time that we are taking advantage of our learning and stick to that. That's a huge piece and part of being successful in this journey. All right, how do we determine what skills we actually need? And remember what I said, the first part of the formula is skill. What skill do we need? What is the actual development that I need to pursue to advance myself? So here are some ways we can figure that out. The first is if we're currently employed, asking our supervisor, especially if you have a good relationship with your supervisor. Maybe you're kind of mid-career veteran. You've had a good relationship or long-term relationship with your supervisor. They've gotten to know you in different ways and seen you in your working capacity. So asking them, what is it that you think I still need to develop in? To either get that promotion, or being very honest, if you can have that conversation, I want to pursue pivoting into a different kind of a role or different kind of an industry. How do I do that? If you are not currently employed, if you're kind of in between positions or returning to the workforce, I would try to contact your most recent supervisor, or one that you really trusted and looked up to ask their advice. The next is performance evaluations. This is a set time of the year where you get to have these discussions. And so I would take advantage of having that discussion about what is it that you need. So I would take the time, maybe have a pitch, which I have a template for you later, to say, I understand in this evaluation, I didn't rank so high in these areas. I really want to advance myself. Is there a way that we could take advantage of finding something either within the organization that I can pursue if you're in the education industry, or find an opportunity, pitch it to you, and then see if we can have some coverage cost wise. Take advantage of that time. Also, you can say next year you could add this as a goal for me. So you're saying that I didn't rank as high here. Next year, after I've had this training, we can reevaluate that competency. You can check with new staff that have been hired. Maybe you're noticing a trend that a lot of new staff are coming in and they have X skill. Maybe they have a certain certification that you're noticing has been interesting or sought after in the hiring process. And so you're asking them a little bit more. Sometimes resumes get sent when a new employee comes into the office. And so peeping at those resumes, seeing what they have, or going to their LinkedIn profiles and checking. Also, those in higher roles, for those who said, I'm seeking promotion in some way, finding someone who's in a role you want to be in and seeing what skills they have. Go to their LinkedIn profile, ask for their resume, take them out to coffee or tea, see if they'd be willing to share information. Having a professional coach, someone like me, who could walk you through what is needed in the industry you want to be a part of or are a part of, or the role you want to seek out. We can actually dig into what skills are needed, find out what your strengths are, and go from there. Same thing with a mentor. I hope all of you have a mentor. If you don't, that's one of your tasks after leaving this presentation today. We all need someone who we look after for advice, specifically in our careers. And so if you have that person, asking them, what do you think it is that I need to advance myself? Okay, job descriptions is one of my favorite ways to look for skills. This is low stakes, something you can do on your own time. I'm going to give you an example of that soon. Informational interviews. Just like I mentioned about taking someone out for coffee, an example I will give that I actually pursued myself is that I always wanted to, I moved from kind of a career coach overseeing kind of career offices within higher education, and I wanted to pivot into more organizational culture, organizational development roles. And so I actually set up informational interviews with multiple people in those fields within education, outside of education, and I wanted to know what degree did you wish you would have gotten? What certification is essential to those you hired that do this work or that you had and helped you get where you are? AI is also our friend. And so you can ask AI, they will pull, all the responses from the technology and information that we have in this world. And you can ask questions like, I want to get into this role, or I want to get into this industry. What skills are most important right now, or up and coming? And that will spit out information. Of course, we have to ask the right questions. So you might have to tailor that a little bit, but it's a resource for us. And then, of course, we have access as alum to alumni career resources through the University of Michigan Alumni Association. That link I know is being sent as a reminder. There are so many webinars like this. There's so many resources online so that you can understand how to tap into where you want to go and tap into the people. We have a huge alumni network, and so there are people that are willing to look out for you and give you those responses. All right, here's a job description example. So I had an alum submit ahead of time that they are from the performing arts industry, which is so exciting. And they're kind of understanding what skills do I need? What is hot right now? What do I need to continue to learn in order to advance my career? So I looked up a role just on Indeed.com, production coordinator for an auditorium theater. So I looked up a couple different roles and I saw a common theme for this kind of work that CAD was actually needed, computer design, and that's a software that is not the easiest to learn, but it is totally possible to take time out of your life to learn and possibly even get a certification for. So this is an example of taking a job description, looking at the knowledge, skills that are required, the abilities, the skills section, like this is required, this is desired, and really using that as information to guide us on what we need skill set wise. So if you can try to do multiple job description searches so that you're not just getting information from one posting, unless it's a certain organization you know you want to work for and you've seen the posting a couple times on that for that organization. But I say look up a couple different ones, compare, and try to see the theme of what skills it is that they're looking for. The next example of another place you can look at or look up different skill sets that you need is what is called an occupational outlook website. So there are two common ones. We're going to walk through them. These websites show industry and career trends. They are fantastic. So if you haven't taken advantage of these, I'm really going to encourage that. We're going to go through them today. So the first is ONET. ONET has a lot of different features to it. You'll see that you can find occupations, you can do advanced searches for actually the different skills that you're looking for. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to show if you go to the advanced search and go to soft skills, you can actually list out the skills that you currently have or you're planning to develop. And I'm going to do that, just a test here. I'm going to do a couple of them. See social skills, thinking skills. I'm going to list out a couple and I'm going to click go. And this is under the soft skills section. And then it's going to pull up for me the careers and the occupations that align with those skills that I listed off. And if it has a sun by that, that means it's a bright outlook. So that means that this role is trending as far as there's more positions that have been available and posted in the last year or so, and it's on trend to just increase. So you'll see an example of that. If I go back to that advanced search and I go to technology skills, this is one where you kind of write in the skill set that you would have. So let's do data visualization. I'm going to write that in. And then this is going to come up with some other examples of categories of work and skills. After I wrote that keyword in, it's going to come up with positions that align with that skill set. So I'm going to actually take one of these examples and I'm going to dig further into this position. So I went through the route of the advanced search of putting in the skills that I have, then seeing what roles come out that align with those, that development that I have, that expertise that I have. But then you can go the route of looking up positions that you either want or you want to be promoted into and seeing what skills you need from there. So I'm looking at biostatistician and I am trying to break down what information I need to know. So this is such a great tool. You can see the tasks that this role does, the technology skills that are needed. It goes into intense detail about the different software, the work activities, the common work activities that you would do, detailed more work activities, a work context, like how much of your day is spent in email, how much of it's spent sitting with group work. There's different job zones information. So this actually will tell you that, you know, most of these positions actually require graduate school. They may require master's and some even PhD, MD, or JD. you can see more information about. Many employers may offer some on-the-job training, but there's also certain skill sets that you need to come in with. I'm going to come back to this training and credentials section, which is amazing because you can break it down by state and zip code. You can see some other worker requirements here: skills, knowledge, again, education. How much education does a new hire need to perform in this job? And then it has it broken down by percentage for the degree, abilities, the interest of work that you have. You can also do that kind of a search. Work values, work styles. It gives you wages, employment trends, also current job openings, as well as related occupations, and then professional associations. So I'm going to go back up here to training and credentials. And I'm going to put in the state of Michigan, because go blue. And I'm going to see here the different trainings that I have available to me in the state for this role. Again, bright outlook, which is exciting. So you can see U of M comes up, which is awesome. The different kinds of degrees offered in this area, and the kind of majors that they'll focus on. So this is a really, really great tool to utilize, especially if you don't know where to start, or you just need some assistance in understanding how to get where you want to be in the roles that you are desiring. So that's ONET. I want to quickly show you Career One Stop. Career One Stop does similar things to ONET, but one really unique thing about One Stop is that it allows you to do some assessments. So if I go up to Explore Careers, you'll see there are different self-assessment options. You can actually click interest assessments, so the different kind of interests and work that you want to do, it will pull up the jobs associated with those interests, or you can go to skills assessment. And that's when, oops, sorry about that. Let me go backwards. Skills assessment. And so this will actually have a skill matcher. It rates your current skill levels in 40 areas. It gives you a list of your strongest and then areas where you might want to improve, but then it gives you a list again of the roles that might be well matched for you. So both of them are great resources, something to utilize. Again, thinking about how do I figure out what skills I need. We're going to keep moving though. Those are great resources to consider. Something else that certain organizations may have available or your supervisor might have available is what's kind of called skill mapping. This is an example of a skill map or a training matrix. And so it lists out the team members here on the left, the roles that they have, and the key skills that are needed for this marketing career and organization. So it lists out in green if they can complete these tasks independently in that skill area. No training is needed in the blue. Yellow needs ongoing support. Kind of this orangish color needs training and direction. Your employer might have something like this. Maybe it's not very as fancy, but they might have something. And so you can ask for that and say, when you're matching up group work, how do you match people up? Is it based on our skill set? If so, what are the skills that someone else has that maybe I might need and I don't have right now that would benefit me in the future? I want to talk about the different kinds of skills. I mentioned some examples. There could be a degree option. I know that usually takes the most work and the most time, but some popular skills needed, degrees needed at this time are business, finance, user research, language, either a computer language or foreign language, or cybersecurity. Those are some popular degrees right now, kind of in that bright outlook realm. But some of these could also be certificates. Some examples of some certificates: data visualization, analytics, project management is really big right now, artificial intelligence, graphic design, leadership is always going to be important, especially if you're looking on advancing yourself promotion wise. Diversity, equity, inclusion, not only understanding the basics of it, but how do I lead that out in my organization? Training courses, some examples could be certain technology, maybe video, computer technology, communication skills, presenting, writing, emotional intelligence. There are trainings out there for that. It could be a 5-day course, a 3-day course. I'm happy, if you reach out, I can give you some examples. via email later of ways to find the certain training programs available to you. But all these can, again, kind of overlap in different areas. One could be a certificate, one could be a degree, but there are different options and ways to pursue the skills training that you need. All right, let's talk about resources. So the money, the costs. We talked about what skills you need. Let's talk about what options you have for funding. There's employer-based again and self. So if you are with an employer currently, it's usually a high likelihood that they have some pockets of money or opportunities kind of to access to get coverage for professional development. One could be tuition support. Usually it's like tuition reimbursement, or sometimes they'll give that funding ahead of time if you showcase that you're a part of a program and signed up. You have to usually make the case to your employer, though, and why you're pursuing that degree and why it's relevant to you. There's also conference funding. Sometimes there's little pockets of just, we have this much set aside to attend certain conferences, for the to show that we're still keeping up in this work for and our organization and up and coming trends, and we have staff attending those. But in conferences, sometimes they have professional development opportunities. You can get certain certifications or leave with a certificate of training when you're there. So take advantage of that conference funding. There's certificate options in your employer sometimes. Like I know many of you are in the education industry that signed up today. They're sometimes sponsored by your employer, certain websites like LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, and Coursera. Those are places you can go on your own time. I know U of M has LinkedIn Learning for, I believe, all alumni, correct me if I'm wrong, and current staff and students. And so that's a place you can go and get really great certificates and just training and watching these amazing videos to further your knowledge. And it goes down your LinkedIn too. Employer training. Some employers offer certain opportunities. I know my executive coach training, for instance, was an employer opportunity. And so sometimes there's an application process. There's usually could be little to no cost associated, and you can get time off because it's from your employer built in. All optional. You have to check in, but possibilities do exist there. Professional associations. I know my employer covers professional associations that are related to the job, and sometimes those associations offer free or low cost training to take advantage of. And then if you're thinking on our not employer based, if you're pursuing something on your own, you're in between jobs, or maybe you just don't want to involve your employer, you're trying to switch careers, you don't want to let them know. Although I would argue to try to, make your case. There's also scholarships if you're thinking school-based degrees, program, there's application-based and financial aid-based options. All right, I want to talk about time. For maximizing our time, how do we do this? I want to talk about some options during the day and then at that kind of more evening time. So if we're thinking 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., there's options to pursue training before work. If you're commuting, and let's say if you're driving, audio only, but maybe there's audio only options. I remember I was pursuing my master's degree, but I was still full-time employee, full-time student. I would take advantage of there's technology to switch over certain articles to be audio, and so I would listen to articles that I had to read on my drive to work. If you're able to take public transit or shared commuting, you could take advantage of studying while you're on that commute. You could take your lunchtime, eat, study, take that training opportunity, webinar online. You can set certain time as approved by your supervisor. I know there are options sometimes in certain organizations to say, okay, you've used tuition funding, you can get maybe up to 3 hours where you flex your time. You could do it during the week, but then later you use those 3 hours on the weekend to fill in work, or you just get that 3 hours to utilize for study because it was employer approved. After 5 p.m., again, if you're on the commute, audio only options while you're eating, after dinner, or there are certain night courses available. There are more and more options, as we know. I know I took, for social work, I've been taking like 8 to 10 p.m. classes, and which are killer sometimes because you're so tired, but there are options. And then weekend studying and learning is also a possibility. Okay, so I'm going to give an example. The skill that this is actually an example for me, I was trying to seek out was a project management certification. So there was pre-training that you actually had to do. It was 2 weeks worth, 10 business days. That was $14.50. And then there's the exam itself, as well as the membership to the association that's associated with getting the certification. If you get a membership, then you likely will have a lower fee of the exam, so it made more sense. And I also got access to much more resources. And so that was exam was $425 and the membership was $139. The resources I utilized is I did seek out an employer paid training and membership. So they covered the pre-training for the 2 weeks and the PMI membership, but I actually had to cover the exam myself. But one other option I want to consider is if you're in between roles or switching organizations, you could also consider negotiating that in your new role. So you might say, I'm actually, in order for me to take this job, I'm negotiating that you can cover this exam that I'm going to take in project management. That's part of the package deal. So that's something to consider. And time-wise, I actually was given some professional development hours. I was given around 3 hours a week to devote to that training. Um, uh, Sorry if that was when I was in school, but for that training specifically, I was actually able to take that time off for those 2 weeks of training to designate just for that pre-training opportunity that I had. And that was covered and allowed by my employer. And then I also had some options to flex schedule to do some employer work on the weekend. All right, so I'm going to talk about advocating for yourself. I know we're getting close to Q&A time, so if you have those questions, please submit them. So it's important through all of this that you're advocating for yourself. How do I make a case to receive support, especially if you're asking your employer? My big note is if you aren't going to, who will? You have to be an advocate for yourself, because if you aren't, there's not going to be anyone else unless you have a really awesome supervisor who's backing you, which I hope all of you do, or a good coach or mentor. They're not going to pursue you. You need to pursue them. So it's important to make your case. If it's with your employer, you really need to highlight the mutual benefit, what this training will do for them, not just for you. You need to make a connection to your current role or future role in that organization. You need to identify different options for costs. Could maybe start with, can you cover it all? That doesn't work, just like I asked, can you cover the training and the membership, but I'll cover the exam. Can you give me certain hours off? Can I flex my schedule here? Here's how I will track my progress, and here's how I will share it with you, so they know that they're keeping up with my update on this training. I have a template for a pitch. I'm going to include that in the worksheet that I'm going to give you. But you can see, here's an example of an email. You could just adjust this slightly to have an in-person conversation, but letting them know you hope they're well, saying that in recent discussions and a performance evaluation, you recognize the need to develop yourself in these areas. Therefore, you're seeking this training out. Here's the link, here's the cost. Maybe you have a couple different options you could give here. You believe this will help the organization because of these reasons. It's important to invest, to contribute to the team. Here's the benefits it will provide the team. You appreciate their support and happy to provide any more information. I would just say, like Noah and Allie, don't be like Allie. He's asking her, what do you want? One of my favorite movies. And she's like, it's not that simple. Like, be prepared to clearly communicate your reasons why you want to get this training, because they have to back that up with time, money, resources. And so be able to respond why this is important, again, for them, not just for you, and different options you could have available if they don't take that first option. I would also say armor up. This is a hard time when you're taking time out of your life to pursue professional development, especially if it's more time intensive. Note your potential obstacles. Night classes may be exhausting. Balancing parenting and home life might be tricky. You might have a tight budget that you're going to have to work on if you've had to self-fund in some way. But know what your support systems are too. Who are the family members that will be there for you? Maybe certain friends that could cheer you up. Childcare options, when you're going to need to take time off to just study and get away for a little bit of quiet time. Who's going to be there for you? What time off can you take? You have, if you're, in a current role, vacation options to consider, or if there's professional development time to take off. And also, your support system might be your faith, meditating, walking, or working out. So I always say, people might say, okay, like this is so much to consider and look into. What if I fail? And I always say, oh, darling, but what if you fly? So consider that, keep that in mind. I'm always going to be an advocate for people pursuing what means a lot to them and will help them find the success they're after and their happiness. So I really encourage people to take the time to pursue their skills, its skill interests, and future goals and dreams. So just as a summary, I will send this. We're going to send the link in the chat. It will prompt you to make a copy right away, but this is a worksheet to go through of, working through all we discussed today. What are the skills that you do have now? What skills do you need? The ways to determine that, the links to ONET and Career One Stop. What training is required for that certain skill or job that you're looking for? What resources are available to you? Here's the template. And then actually a schedule you can utilize to designate time off for your learning, and then potential obstacles and support systems. So that is available to you. We'll send it in follow-up also in the chat right now. Okay, so thinking about your next step, we're at the end here. Please take a moment to write down your next step. I'm just asking you to think about one thing you want to do to think about your upskilling journey. You can write this in the chat. You could keep it to yourself, put it on your phone, put it on a piece of paper. But as we're getting ready to do the Q&A, take a moment to write down that next step. If you want to write it in the chat, it's great because it does allow other people to see too. So while we're doing that, I'm just going to show a couple slides and then get to my thank you. So thank you, everyone. Excited to talk more.
Thank you, Mariana. We do have a couple of questions, so we'll go ahead and get started. And everyone, if you have other questions that are coming up, please feel free to share them in the Q&A. Okay, Mariana, first question is in the chat right now. So asking for a raise is a skill. How do you ask for a raise when you know your company doesn't want to give anyone a raise because of budget reasons? And perhaps we believe that they do have money for raises, they just don't want to pay. So how do you recommend navigating that?
I love negotiating. I love these discussions. I also want to know an amazing resource for all of you. It was a recent webinar that the Alumni Association put on around negotiating. So I highly encourage you to view that through, I believe it's Paula Wishart that presented that. As far as the question goes, so I think it's hard to ask for a raise if you don't have information to back it up. So, and the first thing I think of is you need to show that you're willing to do new work, or that you've been doing additional work, or that you're willing to do that additional work. And so maybe you bring the job description that you had when you first got hired, which I highly encourage everyone to do that when you first get hired to a new role. Always save that job description and showcase what you're doing that's new, or what you would like to start doing in order to receive that raise or that promotion. That to me isn't just I'm giving someone money to give them money. They're doing something different. This is an equity discussion at that point. And so I think that's one way to approach it. I would say another thing is, speak again with your supervisor for more detail, but if there's a different role that's available or coming down the pipeline, there's always things coming down the pipeline that your supervisor might be aware of. Is seeing maybe if that's a place you want to go to, what that job description looks like, and if you can start building those skills to apply for that role that is higher level, that's an option. Thanks, Kiera.
Thank you. And I can speak from experience. Mariana did this,
Yeah.
and probably still does it. So she's speaking not only from her practice with other people, but her own practice. Okay, Mariana, the next question is in the chat right now. And this came up when you were talking through the job description or the job posting example. My job requires me to use certain software, which I am up to date on. But once I started working with the company, I was informed that the version they are using is out of date, and is no longer available. They said this was related to something in the theater. What do you recommend doing in that situation when what your employer wants you to do is actually outdated and you need to step it up, not only for yourself, but for your employer?
Okay, so I'm understanding the employer wants you to learn a certain skill, but you know that it's outdated. So how do you approach that? Okay, well, you're already in the upper edge there, so that's really great. I would say that's an amazing opportunity to state your case on why the organization needs some retraining as a whole and upskilling. So I would take information about that software that is up to date, maybe pull a couple of websites or some information on a document and state, this is actually the software we should be using and why, because they don't have that information now, so they need that. And then show what skills you have around that. And then maybe even say, I'm willing to do some training for the staff on this at X kind of a fee, or maybe if you allow me to do this, then I can get training and more training in that software or in another area kind of paid for by my employer. So I would approach it like that is almost using it as a pitch to show we actually as a whole need to develop and here's why. And that's going to make you look great as long as you approach it in a way that's like, hey, I'm willing to help and here's what I do know. So I think that's a good place to be in.
Okay, thank you. This one I won't be able to get into the chat until you start answering, so let me know if you want me to repeat it. As far as preparing for a career pivot, what advice do you have for someone looking for master's degree programs that they don't have all of the prerequisites for? For example, I don't have coursework in linear algebra, but I'm interested in data science programs that have that as a prerequisite.
Yeah, okay. So this has happened to me actually in my personal life. So I also really value this question. In many of the examples I stated, I said, course or I said there's a degree or you could get a certificate, but sometimes it's just taking one course. And that can often be covered through tuition support. So if you're preparing for a career pivot, I'm having the idea that you are in a current role. I would encourage you to find a way to get that one course you need cover in linear algebra by your employer and take that, have it covered by them. And so then you can eventually apply for that master's degree program. I understand it might be a little bit of a stretch of the role you're currently in, but usually if it's just one course, you can make a reason, especially in algebra. They say it can be applicable to everything in life, although I argue sometimes, like, why did I spend so much time learning certain things in math? I don't know, but you can make a good argument for it. Um, the other thing I'll say is there are certain different ways. I know for my master's degree, I wasn't able to fully commit yet or apply to the social work program for certain reasons. And so they had an option for what they called a master track or a micro masters. And so that was like a smaller commitment. It just depends on how fast you go, but it can be like 6 months, even I think if you really went fast, 3 months of work. And it shaves off a whole semester of that program. So then you can apply and you can shave off a whole semester. And then you also come out with a certificate. So I would look into different educational institutions that might have certain options like that for that master's degree that has a shorter certificate you could complete, able to do some prerequisites in some way or some certificate ahead of time to kind of bypass some courses. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Um, and this next question, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about this. One big reason I'm looking to upskill is to avoid a feeling of imposter syndrome, but also advance to a potential promotion. I've always received positive feedback where I work, so how can I potentially approach handling that imposter feeling and the desire to advance without a lot of critical feedback?
Oh my gosh. First off, I'd be happy to speak with you more about that in detail. I think this could be a good option to connect with coach or someone that's a close friend or mentor in kind of career in life to get to the core of why you're feeling imposter syndrome. Because I always step back and think like everyone's just human and we're all trying to find our place in life, and there's no reason to look at someone else like they're better than. We're all trying to find what matters to us, and everyone's on their own journeys. And if someone's acting big and bad, they're probably deep down hurting. So that's my own little social work background there. But if you've received positive feedback, I would take time on your own to like gather all that feedback, because sometimes it's in a document here and a performance evaluation system here. Take all, I have like a kudos folder in my mail, so that if I'm feeling down one day, I look in there and I go back to that document I have that has all my positive feedback in one spot, and I use that as a reminder of like, I'm good. I can get to where I want to be. So I think that's one way of handling it. The other thing is, without a lot of critical feedback, I think I would also look at yourself and say, what is it that I'm nervous about critical feedback? I would only, at this time, because I might be sensitive about it, only pursue getting constructive feedback from those who I really trust, who have already been able to see me in multiple ways and have worked with me for a while or know me, to get that constructive feedback so I can feel in a safe place when pursuing it. So I would reach out to the promotion area that you want to be in, to someone that you can trust, that you could feel safe getting constructive feedback from too. So some different options there. Happy to talk more.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question,
Mhm. Yeah.
but we'll see because we have two more. What if many roles in your organization, like this person's, have very ambiguous job descriptions, and most hires have overlapping, unclear duties and responsibilities? I have asked for years for clearer job descriptions. Now my supervisor hasn't submitted my performance evaluation for a few years and says they don't really have anything specific in mind. Advice I get is to write my own job description, but it's challenging to make something concrete, especially if the organization doesn't acknowledge it.
Oh,
So what
wow.
advice do you have for this person?
You're in a tricky spot and your organization is probably swamped, but they should be prioritizing this. But if they aren't, it sounds like you've already gone through the route of asking. And if they haven't provided this, especially after some time, I would go create my own and use AI and Google searching to help create that. I would look at other role descriptions that exist already and just start piecing together. And then I have done this before too, and I've taken it to my employer and I've said, this is what I found that's in alignment with this work across just the industry we're in or various industries. Is this in alignment with what you would also say in this current organization? Um, I also want to try to touch on the last question just because I know there's one more left. If your team members are not supportive of your individual development, what do you do, or management? This is also tricky. You might not feel in a safe space, but also I would first say, think business. Like, you have business to attend to, and so do they. See if you can still make a case for why it's important for you to develop in a certain area and how it will benefit them. Try not to think of it personally. If you really, really don't feel like it's safe, then you might want to pursue some personal funds to cover on your own time and resources. But I always try to say use the employer route first. So
Absolutely. And like Mariana mentioned earlier, we have a ton of resources at the Alumni Association, and there are University of Michigan resources more broadly that are available to alumni. So feel free to reach out to us and we can help you at least get started. All right, please join me in extending a heartfelt thank you to Mariana for being with us today. You're welcome to give her the applause and hearts and all of the things. If you'd like to continue connecting with Mariana, please feel free to reach out to her via LinkedIn. Thank you, Mariana, for sharing your expertise and time with us and giving back to the U of M community. We want to remind our alums that today's session has been recorded and you'll receive it in your inbox tomorrow. A link to our survey is in the chat. We love your feedback. We read your feedback, and more importantly, we use your feedback. So thank you everyone for being with us today, and go Blue.